Welcome back to Viewpoint. Earlier today we sat down with a world record holder. Louis Triay Sr. has been practicing law for almost 71 years, and according to the Guinness Book of World Records, that's longer than anybody else ever has. We sat down with him to discuss the changes that he's seen during his 7+ decades practicing law on the Rock, and also what his hopes and expectations are for the coming months. Well, let's start off by congratulating you on officially being a world record holder. How does that feel?
Well, it doesn't feel any different to any other day, except for the fact that congratulations have been flowing in. You know, there's been an absolute flood from friends of mine, mostly in Gibraltar. I didn't know I had so many friends.
Lovely. You're no stranger to achievement. Of course, you've done a lot in your 91 years, but what does it feel like to know that you've done something which no other person has done before in the history of the world?
Well, I suppose it's just all I've done is keeping alive, really. Keeping alive, that's all I've done. But it so happens I've done it longer than other people. And when you think of the world and you think of little Gibraltar, I think it's a first for Gibraltar, and that's always good, actually, and for the firm.
But I mean, you're being humble. You are alive and kicking, if I may say so.
Very much so. Very much so.
You're coming to work every day, and you're a leading authority on your specific areas of legal expertise.
Yes, well, I used to love going to court, and when I started, I went. My career was attending court, mostly criminal cases. I started doing that actually as a pupil in London before I came to Gibraltar. So I enjoyed my court work, but now I deal mainly with wealthy clients for whom I set up trusts.
And what does that entail, Mr. Triay?
Well, that entails looking after the assets. I mean, wealthy people, it's like a living will. In other words, you set up a trust, put your assets into it, and tell your trustees what you want done with those assets.
What's the advantage of doing so?
Well, the advantage of doing that is you don't have to make a will, and you know that if something happens to you, you're going to have your affairs looked after. And now I'm dealing with situations where I created trusts for grandfathers 3 generations ago, and I'm now I've dealt with the sons, with the children, and now I'm dealing with the grandchildren.
Fantastic. And is this obviously work that you continue to enjoy?
Yes, I enjoy it. I enjoy coming to work. I enjoy being surrounded by the people in the office. I like the atmosphere. I must say we're a happy ship. We're a happy office. And I enjoyed coming in every day. My wife says, "Why don't you give it up?" And I said, well, you know, if I give it up, it means sort of admitting that you've reached the end of your life. And I'm not quite ready for that yet.
So would you say it gives you a sense of purpose?
It gives me a sense of purpose, and I suppose a sense of discipline as well, which is, you know, making sure that everything is working, not just physically, but mentally.
Sure. You talk about discipline. You've previously told us that you get up religiously at 6 o'clock in the morning.
6 o'clock in the morning.
Do your exercises
Do
first
my
thing?
exercises. Take my temperature, my blood pressure actually, just to make sure, you know, that it's at the right level. Mm-hmm. And do my exercises, listen to the news in English and Spanish, and then get in the car, drive like mad, hop onto a moped and zigzag in and out of traffic like a youngster. And people say I should give up driving. Why should I?
Well, I suppose mopeds carry a certain amount of risk for anyone who drives them.
Yeah.
You're not worried about that?
At the best of times. No, sometimes you find your mirrors touch the mirrors of the traffic on either side, but you just sort of wave and say sorry and carry on, and if no damage has been done, you just carry on and put your mirror back in place.
It's who you are, right?
Yeah. It's life. That's me.
Okay. How proud are you to have a law firm which carried your name? And I suppose the T in TSN reminds us that it was formed by Louis Triay.
Yes, I started in 1950 practicing as a single practitioner, and then James Niche joined me, and we became Louis Triay and partner. And then my son joined us, and we took over. We were slightly bigger than Stagnetto and Co., but Guy Stagnetto was a colleague of mine, same vintage. We joined up, and we became Triay Stagnetto and the Niche, James Niche. And I said at the time, eventually we're going to be known as TSN, like TNT. You know, we're not dynamite, but we are known as TSN now.
Mm-hmm. And it must give you a certain satisfaction to know that this is a business that you created years ago and continues to prosper.
Yes, I mean it makes me proud, but I don't partake in day-to-day business because there are certain things that that I would like doing my own way. If I'm in charge, if I'm at the helm, I give the orders. Whereas here it's now a bit of a democracy, and I am on the touchline. I'm on the touchline. I look after my own clients.
Sure. Officially a consultant, I believe, is the title.
Well, I'm called a consultant because I'm not a partner. So I'm not sharing in the profits, but I'm giving him my time, my work.
And what is it like to have your son having, to a certain extent, I suppose, taken over some of the responsibilities?
Well, in fact, he is the managing partner, and he's doing a very good job, I must say. And now I'm thinking of the grandchildren. I'm hoping that at least one or two of the grandchildren will will join the firm while I'm still here.
No pressure.
No pressure, but I'll be able to give them a few tips.
I'm sure you will. Do you enjoy sort of mixing with recently joined lawyers and maybe sharing some of your experiences with them? I
do that. I drift around the office, talk to the young ones, and I like to know what they're doing, how they feel about their work.
Good. And what would your advice be to somebody who perhaps has just started off in law?
Well, my motto is think positive, put your whole self into whatever you're doing, and if something hurts, work it.
That's a good motto.
Yeah.
You talked a short while ago about, or you mentioned the word democracy in the context of your firm, but of course you were at the heart of democracy a few decades ago in government, a minister for trade and the port.
That was in 1964 when we coalesced with Sir Joshua's party. We had a coalition, and it was, I think, it's Gibraltar's most difficult years because the frontier was closed and times were hard. But we pulled through. We pulled through, and we relied a lot on the Moroccan labour. Some of them are still with us. They stayed on, even when the frontier was open. But we really had a very hard time. And then the frontier opened, things went sort of back to sort of normal, as normal as they are now.
Yes. A quick word on Sir Joshua, who is a sort of a titan of Gibraltar politics. What was it like to work with him?
Well, he was very good at delegating. He was very good at delegating and putting people together. I mean, we worked very well as a coalition government, and we got Gibraltar through. We kept Gibraltar afloat through very difficult times.
Okay, and during those years as a government minister, you introduced legislation for the exempt company, which in a way paved the way for Gibraltar's finance sector.
Yes, I realised as part of my work that people were using the Channel Islands and the Caribbean islands and the Isle of Man, and I said, why can't we do the same thing in Gibraltar? And I introduced the exempt companies ordinance, and I think that was the foundation of what is now the finance centre.
Sure, which again must give you some satisfaction.
It does very much so. Yes.
How much would you say the legal profession has changed in your 71 years almost
71 years
practicing?
Well, it's changed from the fact that we were about half a dozen when I started, and now we have multiplied, and everybody seems to be doing well. We rely a lot, really, on offshore business. And Gibraltar has been used and is being used as an offshore base.
You mentioned the offshore element there. Sometimes that is criticised as facilitating the arrangement of taxes in such a way that people do not pay as much tax as, the argument goes, they should where they are doing business, and instead pay that tax elsewhere. What would you say to that criticism?
Well, that has changed in the sense that legislation has been brought in every country to foster the exchange of information. At the moment, we have to inform the various countries. For example, if somebody has a structure in Gibraltar or a bank account, and he's of a certain nationality, we have to report that to our local tax office, and they in turn inform the tax offices of the various countries of the nationalities of the people concerned. Mm-hmm. So there is complete transparency. And in England, for example, if you used to own a property as an offshore resident, you didn't have to pay any tax when you sold on the profit. But nowadays, you have to pay tax by the mere fact that you're non-resident. Your stamp duty when you buy is much higher for the non-resident than it is for the resident. And they're introducing taxes every day, introducing new taxes to try and squeeze the lemon as much as they can.
But you think, in short, that it's a model that has worked well for Gibraltar and will continue to work well?
Well, Gibraltar, because of its geographical situation and because of the facilities that we offer and because of the standards that we offer, will continue to be used. It will continue to be used legally. It will continue to be used by the ships. You read in the paper that the cruise liners aren't coming in, but they're coming in for technical work, which shows that we can offer facilities in preference to other ports.
Yeah, well, I mean, we get to the reason perhaps why those cruise liners aren't coming in, and it's the COVID-19 pandemic.
Yeah.
How have you experienced the pandemic in recent months?
I've followed the guidelines. I've done the self-isolation, even though I haven't proved positive. I try and keep my distance and wear my mask and put off the kisses and hugs. Sometimes, well, now particularly, I mean, I've had offers of hugs all the time from all the girls in the office. And I've said, no, sorry, we'll have to save it. Can't have it now. And if people abide by the guidelines, I'm sure we'll defeat the virus. And Gibraltar's done very well. We're very, very well organized health-wise. And we have done very, very, very well. And now there's hope of the vaccine, and hope that we'll all be vaccinated, and that we'll be able to go back to normality. Not just Gibraltar, but the world in general.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
And the other major challenge facing Gibraltar, or that Gibraltar is navigating, is the post-Brexit uncertainty, future relationship with Spain and the European Union.
Yes.
What are your hopes and expectations?
Well, I keep on reading. I have great hopes that our government will come to a successful arrangement with the EU and with our neighbours. Our neighbours seem to be slightly friendlier than our past neighbours. Well, they are the same neighbours but differently led. Mm-hmm. And I'm hopeful that common sense will prevail and that there will be fluidity at the frontier. I mean, our neighbours must remember that about 10,000 workers come in every day, and officially the figures are much higher, and that those workers are keeping families going because there is unemployment on the other side. And I think both parties, our neighbours and our government, want to keep and maintain fluidity at the frontier. And I'm sure we won't have to worry, really, even though we are being trained to expect the worst. And I'm hoping some common sense will also come up in the relations between Britain and the EU. They're going the extra mile. I don't know why they're taking so long, but the extra mile seems to offer some semblance of the possibility of a deal. So let's hope that comes through.
Fingers crossed.
Think positive.
Absolutely, your motto. and apply yourself fully.
Yeah.
what message would you have for people your age, or perhaps people a little bit younger, about longevity and continuing to apply yourself? What does this record mean, do you think, for people of your age?
What it does is, for example, there are a lot of people who retired. I mean, retiring age was 65. And now when reference is made to the older people, even in relation to the coronavirus, reference is made to the over 70s, as if they were, you know, their lives were spent. Well, all I say is 70-year-olds are youngsters. They're mere youngsters. They've got another 20 or 30 years to go. And it's a question of keeping going and being active. And don't concern yourself unduly. I mean, there are a lot of people who stress themselves unnecessarily, because I mean, you've got to, by following the rules, you can go on forever. I mean, I don't know, I'm waiting for the tap on the shoulder. I don't know when that will come, but I'm ready for it.
Porque es un niño al lado mío, eres un niño.
I can't leave you without asking you about sailing, because you've talked about keeping active. You famously have sailed in World Cups.
I have, actually. I've sailed internationally in dinghies when I was younger, and lately I have been sailing in offshore sailing in the famous Trumpeter, and done well in international competition. And I'm sailing at the yacht club, the Royal Gibraltar Yacht Club, in victories.
You continue to take to the sea?
And I continue to take, and I've won a couple of cups this year. So I've beaten the young, so I can hold my own, provided I've got the right crew. And I try and persuade my son to come out with me, because he's very good. And I need his pair of hands. And I've also managed to persuade my grandchildren to come out and crew for me.
Good.
So I'm still at it.
Fantastic. Well, long may that continue.
Many thanks.
Mr Triay, thanks a lot for your time, and congratulations once
Thank
again.
you, Jonathan, for coming along. And I wanted to leave, but you have
What a remarkable man. Congratulations once again to Louis Triay, officially a world record holder. He's been practicing law for longer than anybody else ever has, almost 71 years. A remarkable character, well-deserved recognition. That's where Viewpoint wraps up tonight, and indeed for the coming weeks. We'll be back in January, but of course we'll continue to keep you up to speed on what's been happening in Gibraltar every day throughout the day on Radio Gibraltar, every evening Monday to Friday on Newswatch on GBC television at 8:30, and of course throughout the day on our website gbc.gi and on GBC's social media. Thanks a lot for watching, and good night.